What's up, all you saints and sinners? Welcome to Confessions of a DIY Musician. This is a podcast that's going to be talking all about the behind the scenes of being a DIY musician. So if you are a musician that is independent, that you're recording yourself, that you're rehearsing by yourself with the band, if you're doing all those independent things, this podcast is for you. If you are just a fan of the band Marina City, well, guess what? This podcast is for you because your hosts for this show are the members of Marina City. I am singer Ryan Argast, and I am joined by my two very best friends, drummer Eric Summers-Araya and guitar player Toto Brnijev. And we are going to be talking about why you are rehearsing wrong. So in these next 30 minutes or less, we are going to talk to you about how we learned how to rehearse a lot better in this last decade and some change since we've been a band. And we hope that you learned something, and I hope that you just have some fun with it all together. So, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Confessions of a DIY Musician.
Dun, dun, dun. That was nice. That was a good intro.
Thank you.
Wow.
Although I thought we were about to be Marina in the cities. I thought it was happening.
I thought it was happening.
This was going to be a moment that we were going to be Marina Cities. I am really glad that we are back and doing this podcast. It's really cool to have this conversation with you guys as much as possible.
It's been such a long time.
Yeah, and I think what's
I haven't
cool
seen
about
you guys in forever.
I know, right?
I think
you guys look different.
I think what's cool about this podcast too is that we get to like reminisce a little bit and like kind of realize what we're doing right and what we're doing wrong. Maybe we'll learn about that too. So,
and actually, fun fact, this is the first time that we're doing a podcast with all of us in the same room.
Yeah, I think so. I think you're right.
Usually it was remote. It was throughout the COVID times, you know, 2020, 2021.
Yeah.
And I like this better.
This is going to be
we're
nice.
Like 30 seconds in and I already feel good. You know what I mean?
I'm feeling good about this. Yeah. So as you guys, if you are new here, the band Marina City, we've been around for about a decade and 13 years, 12 years or so. There's different iterations of the band. We are a three-piece now, but we've been able to travel all across the nation, record with some of the biggest hit makers in the world, work with some of the biggest artists in the world, play some of the festivals that we've only dreamed of doing, been able to get our music in radio and in commercials and on TV and everything in between. So we just feel like as independent artists, no manager, no booking agent, no label, and for the most part, that's been true throughout our entire career here. We feel that we've learned a lot of cool things that we hope that we can help with artists that are just getting their start or maybe been doing it for a long period of time and need some changes. So with that being said, I'm going to turn it over to you first, Eric, because Eric is mostly the band director when it comes to music stuff. And so I want to kind of, what would be the first couple things you would talk about on why someone's rehearsing wrong? Maybe start from the beginning of what you think rehearsing is, or just when you think, when someone says that, what is the first thing you think of?
Oh man. Well, first of all, I feel honored to have the title of band director. I usually spend my days conducting Marina City, like an actual orchestra conductor.
With the drumsticks.
Yeah, exactly. With drumsticks. But no, I think the important thing to consider first is to define what rehearsal actually is. So I do a lot of teaching myself. I work with, a variety of students, both like one-on-one privately, and then I also like work with bigger ensembles like a drumline or whatever. So the first thing that I usually like to establish is that like rehearsal is different than practice. Mm-hmm. Practice is something that you do at home by yourself. That's where you work out all the kinks. You familiarize yourself with the material that you need to work on. And then rehearsal is about putting your part together with other people, right? So spending rehearsal time practicing is the most inefficient thing you can do because that's not what rehearsal is designed for, right?
Yeah.
Practicing is for at home. Rehearsal is for here.
Yeah.
Right? And that's such like an important distinction that I think most people completely miss the boat on.
Yeah.
And
when Eric says here, he means the headquarters of Marina City. This is where we rehearse.
Yes.
And that
this is why, that's why we're all in winter coats right now.
Yes.
We're in a basement and it can definitely be cold, and it's like 40 degrees outside right now, which the basement's probably the same temperature. So we're just in all of our winter garb.
Yeah.
But you're right. This is exactly rehearsal here. And I think it also helps when you're telling your wife that you need to go to rehearsal. It sounds better than going to practice.
That is the long running joke I've had. Rehearsal sounds way more serious. So if you're just starting out, and you need to, nobody cares when you have to miss something for practice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have band practice.
Yeah.
You're getting called out. You're being like, you can skip it.
Yeah.
Rehearsal, you can't skip rehearsal. That's important. But in all seriousness, though, I think really driving home that distinction is like the most important thing.
Yeah.
Because the amount of people who just like get into a rehearsal room with everybody and then start working through your parts, like, you're going to slow yourself down so much.
Yeah. I think there's so much you have to do before you get to rehearsal.
Yeah.
Rehearsing, like you said, you're not here to practice your parts. You're here to rehearse with the band.
Right.
And I think the other thing too is like, we didn't do this when we started out, but we do it more now, is that when I put in the calendar, we have a band calendar, which if you don't have a band calendar, we strongly suggest doing that. Every single person should be on it. Honestly, put your wife, girlfriend, and close relatives on it as well, because they know what's going on with the band and why you have to go to rehearsal or why you are doing a show, whatever the case is, because oftentimes band members forget. So we have a band calendar in our phones that just kind of talks about what we're going to be doing at rehearsal as well. So like today, we literally put in our calendar that says podcast taping, content creation, and then maybe recording. So that's what we're focused today. So when we come in here today, we know what we're doing. We don't just show up, set up, and go, well, what are we trying to do?
Yeah.
We always know what's going to be happening that day.
Yeah.
Yeah. For me, rehearsing and practicing has changed a lot throughout the years. When I was younger, it was much different than what it is now. When I started playing guitar, the way I would do it is I would just learn solos and such. Since I'm a guitar player, that's all I really did was learn solos. But so what I would do is I would just get really interested into the music. And first, I think it's really important to have genuine interest into what you want to learn.
Yeah.
And with me, I would learn these solos and they were so complex. And, I come from a musical background where it's like Metallica and blazing speed, scales and whatnot. And in order to do that, I needed to really get disciplined, and I had to become best friends with something called the metronome. And I'm telling you, it has helped me so much. Till this day, I have a little Korg metronome at home. And whatever I'm doing, even if I'm practicing something that's not really challenging, I still put it on, because it's really nice when you become one with the metronome. It becomes one with your brain, with your ear. I know there's a lot of musicians who can't necessarily, they have a hard time playing to a click. And I think the way that I helped myself was I just kind of, the repetition, it's the boring stuff that you need to do in order to get that foundation of, like, I guess a musician that can think that he or she can play everything that they want to, Mm-hmm. So, I would just use the metronome. I'd set a comfortable pace at first. And then once I know that whatever that comfortable pace is for me, I would go down about 10 BPMs and really start out really slow, really boring. And, I didn't do that for hours, but until I was like, okay, I'm doing this now mindlessly. I'm playing the scale like it's in the back of my head, and then I'll bump it up and slowly work like that. It is kind of a gruesome process. It can be very, I wouldn't say debilitating, but it's very, like, you don't want to play anymore. You're just like, screw this. I'm going to go do something else, right? Yeah. But if you get past that point, I guarantee you're going to start seeing results. And again, that's how I used to practice when I was younger. Now it is completely different, because not only are we a little bit older, we have some things going on in our outside lives where you don't have enough time to practice as much as you want to. So whenever I do go home and practice, it is a lot more, I guess, thought out. And It's not just mindless jamming. It's not just mindless soloing and whatnot. Something important for me as well is to set a goal. Before I do anything on the guitar, I like to set a goal for myself. Like, for example, we want new songs, right? We're in the process of making new songs right now. So
spoilers.
Yes. When I get in front of the computer, I have all my sounds dialed in already. And the reason I already have that is because when I'm in a creative mode, and I know you guys are like that, you don't want to be dealing with cables and dialing in settings and all that stuff. You want to sit down, everything is ready, and just the flow, the workflow is much more smoother that way. And I think that helps me a lot. It cuts out a lot of the BS,
I'm the same way.
Yeah.
The same. Like I need the least amount of obstructions to practicing that I possibly can have.
Yep.
So like, for example, like a rule that I have for myself is after a gig, when my drums are all packed up,
Yeah.
I bring my drums in and I set them up every time after I get back. Doesn't matter if I'm getting back at 2 a.m. I'm
I
bringing
give you
my
props
drums
on
in,
that one.
or at least I try to. You know,
You did that last night?
no, I did. They were here last night. They were here last night. But like today, when I get home, I'm 100% just gonna bring my drums in and I'm gonna set them up, because if I show up, you know, tomorrow in my practice space and I'm like, all right, time to practice, and all my drums are packed up, I'm going, time to practice tomorrow.
Right.
You know,
Yeah,
it kind
it's
of
tough.
kicks the ball.
Yeah, no, that's great. I have to start doing that because I have a terrible habit of just dropping. Like I come home from the road, drop everything, and just leave it there for like a day or two,
Yeah, it
maybe
takes
more.
Yeah, I think that when we first started rehearsing as a band, we would get together. I think we were rehearsing like 26 hours, 30 hours a week together. And then as we then for years, for like, I mean, more than half a decade.
Can we talk about how crazy that was? I look back at that time.
Yeah.
How much was it? It was 8 hours. No, it was 4 hours on Fridays, right? It
Yeah.
was 6 to 10, 6 p.m. to 10 or to
it
9.
was 6 to 9.
6 to 9.
Yeah.
So 3 hours. 8 hours or 6 hours or 7 hours. How much was it? 11 to 6, 7?
11 to 6
hours?
and 11 to 6
7
on
Saturday
and Sunday.
Yeah, that's
And
insane.
And you know, I mean, there's a lot of it that I miss those times because we did get a lot done,
Yeah.
but we were able to really front load. That's one of the big reasons why we're really good musicians now and we can play with each other now, because now when we get together, it's not as consistent as probably we would all like, but like, you know, I mentioned before, is that we have a lot going on in our lives that we try to get together every Sunday or have a dedicated thing. And everyone in our family knows Sundays we get together from like 11 to 6 and all that kind of jazz. So we typically do our entire week around knowing that's going to happen. However, still doesn't always happen. And because of that, I just think that we're so much stronger musicians because we've played with each other for such a long time and know what we're kind of getting to. And we also know what we're going to rehearse that day. So when we come in, usually from 11 o'clock to like noon is us setting up the whole bit. And we set everything up. If it's lights, it's cameras, it's our in-ear monitor system, it's every microphone, everything. And then from like 12 to 1, you know, maybe from 11 to 12, we're just kind of talking about just bullshit. We're just like seeing what everyone's up to this week, what's been going on. And then 12 to 1 is kind of talking about like, all right, this is what we're going to do, how we're going to break it down, what the agenda is for today, since we already have it in our calendar. Maybe it's like some Marina City like news that are happening, like, hey, I'm booking the show. Where are we at with this song? Just like almost like a house cleaning of where everything's at from Marina City. And then we may be going over something really small, something really fast, but by 1 o'clock, we're like, all right, when's lunch? Yeah. And that is, at 1 o'clock, we're always getting lunch. And about 2 o'clock, we come back. But from 2 o'clock to about 6 o'clock, that's when we really hit the ground running on practicing. And I know that at the first part, you're like, well, the first 3 hours that you guys are together, you guys are just kind of dicking around. And there is a little bit of that's kind of happening. But for the most part, we get all the dicks out, and now we're just
and now we're just hanging out.
Now we're just hanging. No, for the rest of the time that we're here, we're like just boom, boom, boom. And you know, we go over the entire set. Like usually we're practicing for a show, so we'll figure out what the song is going to be, and that's usually. The set list is usually determined in that 12 to 1 o'clock hour. And then once we have that, we'll probably go over songs that we need a little bit more tuning into. So, I mean, I know that like Glaze was one that we needed a little bit more, or maybe Runaways when we first started doing it. All these different kind of songs. I remember specifically Strawberry was a difficult song because I was just so... For me personally, I'm singing falsetto on the entire time, so it felt like I was so exposed. So I really wanted to make sure we rehearsed that a lot. Once we get all those songs feeling pretty good, then we go through the whole set. And probably twice we go through the whole set to see if it feels pretty good. And when we are rehearsing the whole set, we're rehearsing changeovers. We're rehearsing I'm rehearsing kind of what I'm going to say at the show. And oftentimes what I'm saying at the show and what I'm saying at rehearsal is not necessarily it's not always... It is like an outline. Like I know at this point I'm going to talk about, this is where I'm going to talk about merch. And then whatever I say about merch is always going to be different depending on what the show is like.
Yeah.
You know,
that's important for you to remember, but it's also important for us to know, all right, Ryan's wrapping things up. So I can cue the tracks here and have some background music while you're talking. You know, it's like feeling out how long your cadence is.
Right.
So then we can figure out like how soon can we start the song where it's not going to cut you off.
Yeah.
You can say everything you need to say, and then we can also keep the show moving. So there's not a point where, the audience is sitting there twiddling their thumbs.
There is never, ever, ever a point where the audience is sitting there in silence. And we even have rehearsed, like for example, our song Tanzanite, Toter has to play a 7-string on that. And we have to figure out the set to make sure that it feels so seamless that literally from one song to the next song with you changing back and forth.
Yeah.
And what do I say? And when I finish, when I say these last few words, I may say a bunch of other shit, but the minute I get to that ending of that last couple sentences, when to start hitting that track.
Right.
And then we're right back in it. And what happens if Toter is not getting that guitar? Like maybe something's wrong with the guitar. It's not as fast as usual. Yeah. What do we do there? And you have systems in your tracks because, a spoiler, this band, since there's only 3 of us, we do use a lot of tracks. We're not Green Day.
We're a fake band.
We're a fake band. And so, but we have things in there that can fix it. So, I mean, just the other show, I screwed up in Roses. We have the song Roses where it's basically just a vocoder and I singing. And I went too early. But what did you do? How did you set that up to make sure that we were not falling off?
So I have a couple fail safes in our track system, so I can pause it from behind the kit and then jump ahead to the next section and then hit play and kind of pick up where we left off. So, I mean, to kind of touch on this is one of my favorite sayings that I totally live by, and I tell all my students about is don't practice until you get it right. Practice until you can't get it wrong.
Yeah.
So what happens a lot in rehearsals is you're going to run into all of these everyday mistakes that are going to happen during a live show. Like, I don't know about you guys. I've never played a perfect show in my life.
Yeah.
I probably never will.
Yeah.
But it's about learning how to recover from those mistakes, how to, keep your wits about you. If I drop a stick, what does the recovery motion look like? Yeah. So all of these things that we're rehearsing through are real life scenarios that we're gonna run into. Ryan comes in early. How do we fix that and adjust to him where the audience doesn't know,
right?
And we don't look like massive tools
with
just trying to catch up or whatever,
And touching back on Roses, because that's I guess our most recent what happened on Friday, right? So when I was playing, so for the audience members right now that are listening, I play a vocoder part on the piano as Ryan sings the intro. And that's where you're hearing that, how would you describe it? Like a distortion. It's like a robot type thing happening underneath your vocals. So as I am playing it, I hear that Ryan comes in early, maybe like half or one measure. Not exactly sure what it was.
It was like a beat.
But I automatically knew, because of rehearsal, because we've done this so many times in this basement, I already knew to look at Eric because I already know what he was thinking. He was thinking, I'm going to just pause the track and then we're going to get back on track, in like a bar or two. So I look at him and he's already working it and I'm like, all right, cool. Everything is going to be all good.
Yeah.
And of course, what happened? You caught it, you fixed it, and then we're back on track.
Yeah, I mean, these are the things that you have to work out beforehand.
Yeah, we rehearsed that.
Like they know that I'll save the day.
Yeah.
but like I tell Ryan all the time, like I will adjust to you. It's going to be way more obvious to the audience if Ryan messes up and then Ryan like re-sings a line, or has to fix it. Like it's going to be a much more seamless scenario if we adjust to Ryan because he's helpless and no, I'm just kidding. but kind of like
I am helpless at that moment.
But you're on the front lines here, and we're just sitting in the back. So it's important for me to let Ryan know. Look, I will fix this. You just keep doing your thing, and then we will adjust to you, and we'll keep going. Yeah. So to like work through those different types of fail safes, to have those conversations, to be able to rehearse through those nightmare scenarios, right? Especially in rehearsal, it's super important when you come across a mistake, you don't stop.
Yeah.
You have to work through that mistake first and then go back. It kind of goes against all of that human instinct to be like, oh crap, I made a mistake. I gotta stop, And in any other art form, you get that luxury. If you're a painter and you make a mistake,
Yeah.
you can spend days screaming at the heavens and punching holes in the walls. But our music art form deals in time. Like
Yeah.
our medium is time based, you know? So we have to like adapt to these
Right.
scenarios
Yeah.
and learn how to like keep cool under pressure, because something's going to go wrong.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I'm going to take a break to talk about our sponsors real quick. So our sponsors is thecrush.marinacityband.com. That's right. You heard it here, folks. We have a merchandise set up at thecrush.marinacityband.com. You can just go to marinacityband.com and it'll take you to our merch, our touring links, our music videos, all those kind of things. You can go to marinacityband.com to check that out. Also, we have some really cool things too. We have a Discord that we really ask you to try to join. It's a really cool community that we have a bunch of fans from not only all over the country, but all over the world that talk in that Discord. We have different channels like the Feeling Better channel, which that channel is basically talking about something good that's happening in your life that you can talk about your accomplishments. We even have a channel that's called the Vent channel. And if there's something going on at work or at school or between your parents or whatever, you just got to say something to someone. It's a no judgment free zone. It's Planet Fitness for Discord music. And it's an opportunity to kind of talk there. But there's also some really cool things there. It's the ability to collect these pins, these badges that we have. The only way that you can collect these badges is if you do certain things for Marina City. You do certain kind of puzzles. You go to certain kind of shows. You listen to certain kind of songs. You get a badge, and the only way to find that really out is going to be through the Discord. There's going to be sections for that. And lastly, definitely check out our text line. If you are a texter, if you have a phone, you should be getting this. You can text us at 815-406-6209. That's 815-406-6209. And we're always hitting you up with the new shows, with the new podcasts, with some cool things that are exclusive before anyone else on the Instagram, the TikToks, the Twitters, or X's, or whatever the hell it's called, before that's even there. So we will see you guys on our text line and our Discord. Those are our sponsors. But the other thing I wanted to talk about was it's not also about rehearsing the music part, but also set up. We had rehearsals, and we even talked about it just when we were on tour that we need to have another rehearsal. We used to be a 6-piece, and then we used to be a 5-piece, and then a 4-piece, and now we're a 3-piece. And our equipment has like gotten smaller, kind of, but not really. So right. We would literally figure out ways when we were a 6-piece. I specifically remember we would time ourselves on how we can set up a stage within 8 minutes. And now we probably would be a little bit slower as the three of us, but that's something that we have to work on how we can get everything as fast as possible on stage and off stage. And I think that's really important that you do rehearse those things.
Yeah. No, it's, I would say like your job as a musician isn't just the 30 minutes or 3 hours that you're on stage. It's everything else. It's being able to set up on time. It's being able to take your stuff off stage on time. It's, loading in, being professional at the venue. Some of those things you can't really rehearse.
Yeah.
Like being professional at the venue. But specifically things like getting your stuff on stage, being able to strike quickly, that is an important part of your job.
Super important.
If you are on stage and you're opening up for, famous national touring band X, whatever, and you don't get your stuff off stage within your 15-minute time limit, then you're ruining the next band's time slot.
Yeah.
And then they're not going to ask you back.
Yeah.
And then you're going to miss out on all the international touring opportunities that they were going to throw your way. So for us, now that we're a 3-piece, we have to really talk about and think about and actually rehearse how we're going to pull our stuff off stage, being ready for that strike. Another thing is like knowing how to do a sound check, right? Like that was something that we have talked about in rehearsal. Like what's our professional way that we can make sure the sound guy can get us dialed in the best way possible. Like
and we can have a whole rehearsal on that.
Yeah,
one.
we can have a
whole episode on that for sure.
For sure.
But you're right. All those little things, even about we practice Toter will go to the merchandise right after the performance before I even do or you do, for a couple reasons. We've had that for a long time. Toter would run off. I would grab his stuff and go. And oftentimes people would be like, well, why isn't the singer going right away? Well, I'm trying to save my voice as much as possible.
Yeah.
And oftentimes people want to take photos of the whole band or take photos with the singer and all that kind of jazz, and it's a lot easier, more productive. We can get Toter out there, sell as much as possible, and then myself, you, and the rest of the band.
Shit about Toter.
We can all take photos. We can all take photos
Buy
together.
T-shirts for me.
Nobody wants to take a picture with Toter, I guess. But to your point, it's more about like knowing, like also knowing what you need to perform at your best too. Yeah. Like for Ryan to know, look, if I go out into the crowd right now and it's super loud and it's still in the middle of the show, I know that I'm going to screw up my voice. You know, don't do that. It's like the same for me, like practicing our setup and teardown puts my mind at ease because nothing will like rattle me before a show more than being rushed.
Oh yeah.
Like if I don't know what's happening and there's, you know, the venue staff's yelling at me, you guys gotta be quicker. Let's go. Your set starts in 2 minutes. Dude, I don't need any of that. That's gonna throw me way off my game. Yeah. So practicing these things puts my mind at ease that like, okay, I know we can do this in our allotted time and I can relax and just prep my mind for the show. Yeah. And not be like frantic chaos mode.
Absolutely.
That was me when I had to switch out the guitars. So with our new song Tanzanite, this is the first time I ever had to do a guitar switch on stage. Yeah. Usually I just play my Music Man for all the songs. It's always been like that. You know, maybe I would do a acoustic guitar switch if we were doing an acoustic song, but for the most part, I've just always been one guitar guy throughout the whole set. So I had to figure out ways of how to efficiently switch out my guitar in the middle of the set without bogging down the set, without having the crowd just kind of twirling their hair, right? That type of thing. And there's kind of, as I realized how much there actually is to switching a guitar, I mean, I have to take my in-ears out. But I have to have the guitar strap over the in-ears, not under the in-ears, because if I take the guitar, it's going to pull my in-ears. So I found out the hard way, and now everything gets derailed. So there's certain, there's a process to that, even though it's such a small thing. It's just a guitar switch, you know? Yeah. But there's literally like, in my head, there's 5 steps, you know, that I have to do. There's, I have my wireless that I have to unplug, my in-ears that I have to unplug, take out the guitar, make sure none of the wires are touching the guitar strap, and then set it down, bring in the new guitar, and then plug everything back in. Make sure I'm tuned up, like a quick tuning. At this point, I give Eric the thumbs up, like, all right, you can play the track because the intro is just Ryan for like the first couple seconds, and that gives me enough time to get ready. So it's just preparing for those types of moments is extremely important.
Absolutely. Well, we are getting towards the end of the time here. Any final thoughts or anything you guys want to say before we wrap this up?
Yeah, I do want to touch on something that Toter was talking about way earlier, which I think is a good sort of bottom line to wrap it up, and that's generally just talking about rehearsing and practicing with intention, and especially as you get more advanced into your musical career, like that balance between the sort of fun practice of like I'm just gonna like jam along to songs today, and then the work practice of all right, I'm going to spend 30 minutes with the metronome. Like that balance shifts dramatically. So as you start to take things more seriously, really start to pivot into more intentional, like work-based practice. And it's not like, I'm always really transparent about this with students. It's not the most fun practicing. No, you know, the thing in your mind that you're like, man, I really don't want to do this today is usually the stuff that you need to work on the most. Yeah. And that is true whether you're by yourself or whether you're in a full band rehearsal. So having those objectives of like, this is what we're going to cover, this is what I need to work on, this is what we need to work on, is going to make your rehearsals just infinitely more productive and efficient. You know, like we like we said, we were practicing, 20 hours a week. But if you're efficient and you go very objective based, you don't need that much time. You can be just really efficient and cover all the ground you need.
Yeah. It's the stuff that you do outside of practice that makes rehearsal, or outside rehearsal, It's the things that you practice outside of rehearsal that makes rehearsal really efficient.
And once you get it down, once you go through that gruesome process and you start getting it down, and it's the most rewarding feeling once you actually get the part down and you're like, holy crap, I'm doing this, you know?
Yeah.
And you're just like, just super rewarding.
Yeah, no, it's awesome. Well, that concludes our episode today about why you are rehearsing wrong. We are Marina City, and this is our podcast called Confessions of a DIY Musician. We thank you so much for listening here. Well, if there are other topics that you want to hear us talk about, please email us at thecrush@marinacityband.com. That's thecrush@marinacityband.com. If you're looking to book us, if you guys want us to come to your college and talk a little bit more about these topics at your school or anything else, please email us at management@marinacityband.com. And we hope to see you at a show. Go listen to our music at Spotify, Apple Music, wherever you get your music. And make sure you guys subscribe so that we can have more people listen to exactly what you're listening to. So thank you guys so much for joining us today.
Send us your questions, topics. Yes. Yeah, all of that
Please
stuff.
do. Thank you guys so much. We will see you next time.
Toodles. Bye.